Our next speakers come to us from University of California, Davis. So Haven Kiers is an assistant professor of landscape architecture at UC Davis, and she examines the environmental benefits, technological progress, and level of cultural acceptance of green infrastructure and sustainable design. Stacey Parker is a gateways horticulturalist at the UC Davis Arboretum and Public Garden. She started the Nature RX program at UC Davis, and in that garden, she manages plant collections along with community volunteers and mentors students in the Edible Landscape Learning by Leading internship program. So we welcome Haven and Stacey.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for being here today, and thank you all to all of the organizers. My name is Stacey Parker, and I'm a Gateways horticulturist with the UC Davis Arboretum and Public Garden. And as Jason mentioned, I will be co-presenting with Haven Kiers, professor of landscape architecture and former colleague of mine at the Arboretum. And as you'll learn from this presentation, my favorite co-conspirator. We're going to be talking to you today about our Nature RX program at UC Davis, the different components, the research that has come out of it, the implications of COVID, and where we're headed. So first, a little information about UC Davis. We're in the heart of the Central Valley, about 20 minutes from our state capital of Sacramento. We're a campus of about 34,000 students, and the city of Davis has a population of about 65,000 residents. And I'll just mention quickly that the Arboretum is 100 acres, and our organization has grown to encompass the whole of the campus proper, plus a natural reserve, hence our name, Arboretum and Public Garden. So I'm gonna dive right in and get into our purpose and programs. So our purpose at the Arboretum and Public Garden is to inspire human potential to help communities and environments thrive, which brings me to my very first piece of advice to those of you looking to start programs yourselves, finding alignment with your organization's mission. The addition of Nature RX programming at the UC Davis Arboretum and Public Garden wasn't really an addition at all. It was more of a wrapper that helped us to realize that at their core, all of our programs were actually, in fact, Nature RX programs. So while students and community members are learning about, oh, sorry in advance for my dogs. Hey. That's gonna hopefully not be too much of a problem. Anyway, so while our community members are learning about Arboretum collections or doing projects to improve the campus environment, they're also reaping the health and wellness benefits of being outside in nature and being part of a community. Now we're open 24/7 on a college campus, which makes us very accessible, but we're in an inherently stressful environment. And we're also the #1 thing to do on TripAdvisor for things to do in Davis. So launching a Nature RX program was merely doubling down on what we were already doing and how our community most values us. So long story short, when we were thinking about doing a first year seminar and Haven and I made the big pitch, it was pretty easy for us to get the okay to launch us on this path. So this is about our first year seminar. We have a 10-week quarter system. So you can see this is a typical quarter for us. And the first thing that we got to do was brainstorm on what would be fun and inspiring, and basically what would we want to end up doing. And so we thought of speakers and activities that the students could do. We meet, I'm sorry, excuse you, Virgil. I'm so sorry. I don't know how to deal with this. Virgil, come here. Okay, I'm so sorry. Anyway, I can't see anybody's faces at the moment. I think I'm just gonna go on. So students in our first year seminar meet once a week on Friday afternoons for 2 hours for the class. And after the initial pulse of getting it all scheduled, there's general little for Haven and I to do during the quarter beyond the in-class time. While we assign supplemental readings and journal assignments, we try as best as we can to emphasize the immersion experience as much as possible. So which brings me to our second tip, which is relying on the expertise of campus faculty and staff. Incorporating them into the program introduces the students to places and people and experiences that are incredibly memorable and special. We are not only trying to connect students to the power of nature, but also to the community of UC Davis and the place of UC Davis, with the hope of creating a lasting and memorable experience and sense of belonging. Immersion is also critical to the program's success. Our goal is to create a safe environment for our students to take small but meaningful risks, to step outside of their day-to-day, to set aside their phones and to truly be present to the natural world. From being hoisted 50 feet in the air in a tree trimmer's bucket to wading and seining in our local creek with an internationally renowned fish biologist, these students are treated to a truly boutique experience with nature. Finally, in order for them to understand the impact that these experiences have on them, we have integrated journaling as a weekly assignment in order for students to examine and assimilate the readings and assignments and experiences that they're having. So here's the one thing that everyone always wants to know about our program once they learn about it. They say, how can we get involved? So, so we expanded our program and partnered with our campus's staff and faculty health and well-being department to create a Nature RX lunchtime series. And I just want to point out that while our staff conducts some of these sessions, we also tapped a couple of our partners once again to be part of it. So it was wildly popular, like so much so that when the announcement was sent out over the listserv, it filled up in 5 minutes and there were more than 125 people on the waiting list. So they ended up actually having to have a lottery to handle the demand. And I also just wanted to mention that we couldn't do it without our partners. I will say that once you start, you'll learn along the way who your allies are and where the energy is, and finding the right partners and aligning our efforts with these larger initiatives has been essential to the success of our programs here. And you can see that some of these partners, the staff and faculty health and well-being, I've also been a part of a group that Haven is going to mention called Healthy UC Davis, which is a UC-wide actually healthy campus initiative. We also have partnered closely with our student health and counseling services, the student farm, the UC Botanical Conservatory, and we're also a part of this local YOLO Healthy Parks, Healthy People initiative. And more recently, this Healthy Davis Together is about the city of Davis and the university coming together to realize the health and well-being of our local community is basically intertwined. And so we're going to be part of helping with that effort as well as we face what lies ahead with COVID. So finally, I want to quickly mention how Nature RX fits in with our existing programs. So taking a look sort of retroactively, I was saying that we have So we have a large and successful student internship program called Learning by Leading, with a total of 14 different internship teams that fall into one of two strands. The first pictured here is our environmental stewardship strand. And you'll see here students in these photos conducting real world work in the field. And I will say that nature-based interactions lie at the heart of these internships. Students are not sitting out in the classrooms being told about the importance of nature. They're outside installing native wetlands along the banks of the Arboretum waterway, or converting turf medians into drought-tolerant gardens to save water and labor, or they're harvesting vegetables that they've planted and tended themselves to donate to the student food pantry on campus. So as I mentioned at the beginning, and what you can see is that Nature RX is really not a departure for us and our programs, but really just an extension. So what you'll see in this slide are several of our public programs that are actually led by our other Learning by Leading program strand: environmental education, outreach, and lifelong learning. So these student teams actually develop programs for university students, children, families, and the general public to connect them with nature. And nearly all of these programs have a Nature RX component to them, as the idea is to instill a love and appreciation of plants, the outdoors, and the environment. And several of their programs are created with specific health and wellness themes, such as yoga in the Arboretum, tea and conversations in the redwoods, or stargazing in the White Flower Garden. So now to the backbone of the Arboretum and Public Garden, which is our volunteers. We have over 150 volunteers each week, and as we know, studies have shown the remarkable benefits attributable to volunteering. And you can see from the many bullet points I have listed here, it's been shown that volunteers that devote a considerable amount of time to volunteer activities are more likely to exhibit positive health outcomes. And all that is to say that Nature RX is ultimately about connecting people to the power of nature and to the power of place. At UC Davis, we do this in large part by inviting people in to be co-creators, because we believe that co-creators in the end equals co-owners. So to speak more on the importance of place and to share her research on the power of place, I'm now going to hand it over to Haven.
Thank you, Stacey. Yeah, so as Stacey mentioned, I started it at the Arboretum and Public Garden and only recently made the transition to fancy professor. And so next slide. What I've been learning as a professor is, well, first of all, the picture, I realized that it's really important as a professor to always wear a lab coat because I'm doing important research. I wrote up a very fancy, spent a lot of time writing up exactly what I do in fancy terms, you know, integrating contemporary design theory, talking about technological progress, cultural acceptance. But the long and short of it is, like, the translation of all that I do is coming up with cool things that we can do on campus that actually connect students in the community to the place, to what students are, what is UC Davis, and why is it someplace that people want to be at and be connected and then come back to. Next slide. So my work focuses, it's one of the main things that I'm looking at is this idea of campus conversions. Campus standing for climate adapted, maintainable public university spaces. And the idea here is, we all know that converting turf into gardens is a good thing. But what I'm trying to do is take these conversions and make it something that's not just ornamental or just sustainable, but actually create regionally appropriate landscapes and gardens that are actually installed or designed by students in some cases, but used for campus generated research. Next slide. And so the idea is to take these landscapes that, you can actually use to collect data that you can't, that scientists in ecology, that entomologists, that ecologists are using, so that they're actually getting data from them, that you can quantify and qualify the benefits of these landscapes, providing the research, creating design opportunities for landscape students, but also at the same time, creating spaces, creating gardens that are beautiful, that are grounded in place, that people want to be in. So really just taking a simple concept of turning lawn into something and making it a place so that it becomes a spot of refuge. It can be interpretive, it can be scientific, but it's a place that really is founded within UC Davis. Next slide. So another part of that is a project that I'm working on with Stacey, with the Arboretum and Public Garden, is the Living Landscape Adaptation Plan. And the idea, this kind of falls in within that campus conversion, but it's taking the campus landscape and trying to plan ahead for the next 75 years, really with a broad time frame of about 25 years to think about climate change. And at the same time as thinking about climate change and adapting the plants and adapting the campus to actually, be resilient to climate change, integrating all of the scientific knowledge, but really creating these welcoming, open, inviting spaces for campus, with one of the main strands being improving the health and well-being of the campus population through these landscapes. Next slide. And so part of that, as Stacey mentioned, is this Healthy UC Davis program. And there are 4 strands of the Healthy UC Davis program. The one that both Stacey and I work on, Stacey is on the steering committee, is this strand of mental and emotional well-being. And basically together we're promoting the concept of Nature RX as a means to incorporate healthy life skills, reduce stress, cultivate self-awareness, and destigmatize mental illness. So that, it's not, a lot of this strand is really like emergency responses. And we're trying to say, well, how do we use what we've got? How do we use the campus to really make it into something, so that Nature RX becomes part of that mental health? Next slide. Another area of research that I'm really excited about is this idea of designed experiments. And so working and collaborating with scientists to create these spaces. So I'm doing this at one place called Smart Landscape. And so it's a new program, but basically we've created a swale where we're testing out different types of plants, because for all of you on the East Coast, you have amazing plants that you know how to put in swales. California, we use juncus and that's it. And so it's really, how can we explore that? With the pollinator study garden, I'm actually partnering with 2 entomologists, one who studies milkweed and one who studies California fuchsia. And we've designed gardens around their experiments. So they are actually collecting research, but we've turned it into replicated, beautiful gardens that can be viewed and used year round. We're also working on a green roof project and a hedgerow project as well, trying to make hedgerow something that is doing a good job for the environment, but is something that people can learn from and see and really connect to sort of the ag fields of UC Davis. Next slide. This is a design experiment that I'm really excited about, that I just got started on and actually just got permission on. And that is the idea of using our campus sheep from the sheep barn to mow some of the lawns on campus. And so we're actually going to be running a comparison trial of sheep in one part of the lawn and typical lawnmowers maintenance on the other, just to see what kind of maintenance benefits we have. But really, again, grounding in the sense of place. We are an ag university, and the potential to have sheep on campus and let people interact and see and be a part of it, I think is really important. Next slide. And then another one of my designed experiments is one that is conveniently located outside of a massive windows at the 3rd floor waiting room of the health services building. And so this was a green roof that was there that had a typical like sedum kind of covering on it. And I've been able to take it and start playing again with testing plants. And so really, like, on the one hand, testing different types of grassland plants to see how they do on green roofs. But on the other hand, thinking about aesthetics and seasonality and that view from the window for students and how they do, and whether that's something like if they're out there waiting And they can look out onto this, whether that changes from what that view was when it was just kind of a basic sedum carpet. Next slide. And then the other part of my research or work really is kind of in this placemaking, place-based, these ideas. And so for now 8 years, I've been teaching a design build studio at UC Davis in the landscape architecture department. And these are just some of the projects that we've built. We've installed hammocks, we've built a green roof bike rack. We've got different areas of the courtyard that we've been able to take over. Next slide. And much like Stacey was talking about the importance of understanding like what are the key components within our Nature RX program, some of the key components that I've found in this design build studio, I mean, big one is experiential learning, right? This is how you get students to actually connect to the place. If they build it, they become owners, they feel connected to it. So really having them out there. And we're actually one of only 5 classes right now in the entire College of Agriculture that is in person. And so we are in fact doing stuff. Next slide. So we focus on sustainability and showcasing sustainability. Next slide. And importantly on community accessibility and engagement. And this is a garden courtyard where we're really trying to not just showcase the work of the students, but to create a space that people feel comfortable in, that is accessible and open to everyone, and that people want to spend time in. From not just the campus community, but also from outside community as well. Next slide. So I'm going to quickly go into some of the pandemic adaptations with, how we've adapted now that COVID has struck and how our Nature RX has changed a little bit. Next slide. So really what we've learned, and Michelle was talking about this earlier in her talk, is that with COVID, the uptake in the amount of usage of outdoor space and the surge of people trying to spend time outside has been huge. So for my 160 class, for this design build class, we're really focusing on trying to make our space, the courtyard, the outdoor space, pandemic ready. And how can we do that so that people can spend time outside? And so just really quickly, the project on the left is a movable pinup board, all terrain actually, with massive wheels so that students can actually have their outdoor reviews and critiques. We can just bring it outside anywhere we want in the within the courtyard. They're also designing a therapeutic garden for the courtyard. So as you can see from the picture, one of them really wants to do kind of a Zen garden. And so we're going to look into that. Next slide. And then we've taken our Nature RX class virtual. And so one of those components is we've really been relying on Instagram for that. And so you can see on the left, these are some of the Instagram posts where we're giving our students weekly assignments where they have to post about wildlife or maybe a hidden gem. We had one class where they actually met with campus photographers and learned how to take nature photography. And then on the right, this was our watercoloring session where we did go virtual with watercolors. Next slide. And the signage on campus too is also now place-based, right? It's not just stay 6 feet away. It's grounded in the fact that we have at Davis, we have a dachshund derby every year. So the dachshunds are there with the Aggies. So we've got the cows, squirrels everywhere, but really trying to bring people into that place. Next slide. And then finally, Stacey talked a little bit about being on this committee for Healthy UC Davis. One of the other things that we are working on is an outdoor space inventory and assessment, and coming up with how can we, principles of maximizing outdoor spaces, using them to increase health and well-being, promoting outdoor immersion, and really just understanding where are the spaces we have and how can we elevate them. Next slide. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to you, Stacey, for why place matters.
Thank you. My apologies again for my dog. I now have him on my lap, so hopefully that will not happen again. I don't need to tell you that during the pandemic, student life on college campuses has been drastically curtailed, that classes are no longer being held in large lecture halls, indoor labs are canceled. Even hosting a party or casual get-together is now strictly forbidden because of the potential risks to health and life. Yet this time has shown us that being together, being in a place together really matters. And for the first time, not just gardeners and not just campus managers, but now the entire community has a deep understanding that college life is not only about the education we get there, and maybe not even mostly about the facts and figures that we learn. Now we understand in a way that we never have before that being together, building community, having shared experiences, and working on a team in the same place at the same time is a deeply meaningful human need. It's how we build connection. It's how we build lifelong friendships. It's how we begin to build the skills that will take us into our careers and onward as we grow and learn. And gardens, the wild and rural places, the natural areas now matter more than ever. Trapped indoors for much of the time, students and others on campus now jump at the chance to get outside and eliminate Zoom fatigue. Getting out in the fresh air and walking or resting or visiting distantly with friends in open outdoor spaces in gardens or parks. And we can learn online, but despite its convenience and despite its truly remarkable opportunities, it often somehow falls short. And now we understand in a deep-hearted way, in a deep visceral way, the way you learn in your bones. This is not a superficial need. So sitting alone in front of a computer gives us many wonderful new opportunities. It's a complement to and not a replacement of place and the need that we have to dream, to learn, to understand, and to invent together. Being there helps us learn with all of our senses, all of our understandings, all of our abilities to perceive and communicate and understand each other and our world. And we all light up when we're outside. We become more fully alive, more awake, more alert. Our creativity brightens and sparkles and ideas come quickly. What we have learned from this pandemic is nothing more and nothing less than this. Connection with the richness of the natural world is essential for our well-being, for our health, and for our sense of community. And as campuses, as gardens, as managers of outdoor spaces, this is a truly special once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to capture this new appreciation of the natural world and outdoor spaces by helping our communities meet the moment and build a new, happier, saner, healthier, and more welcoming public realm. Public spaces that support our whole hearts, our whole minds, and our whole selves. And you all are the people who are best equipped to do this. And it's really your moment. So my suggestion is to start with something very, very small. Maybe organize a talk or write a blog post or shift the theme of one of your programs. And later, you can think bigger, but for now, I would say sign up and give us a call and let us encourage you with the very first steps. Thank you so much. We'll take any of your questions if you have any.
Thank you, Stacey and Haven. We have a time for just one or two questions. One participant says, I'm curious how you convey the important principles of reciprocity with nature, land acknowledgement, asking permission of the land to be there, and reparations to the indigenous peoples whose land you are on.
That's a really great question. We have partnered, so we have a land acknowledgement as part of our university. And then beyond that, we also partner with our local tribe. And we've had some programming that has started to incorporate cultural sensitivity training, particularly with our gardeners, because there have been human remains that have been found on our campus because we are on indigenous land. And so we have started to incorporate more of that. We also have a partnership with an intertribal agricultural council that that supports students coming through our programs who are actually learning how to propagate and replenish some of their native lands that are close by in California. So they've been working on projects. So I would say through a deep partnership, but it's something that we want to continue to build upon. There's also one of our very first gateway gardens, actually our very first gateway garden that we ever built is the Native American Contemplative Garden, that is in honor of all of the indigenous people that have that came before us, and that it's a place to honor and recognize that aspect of the land. But I do think that we could always be doing more and better. And I think we have some things that feel like a good start, but if anybody else has anything to offer, I'd say, you know, that's something that we continuously are looking to improve and enhance in our programs. Haven, do you have anything to add?
No, I think you nailed it.
Well, thank you so much. That's all the time we have right now for questions. Thank
Okay,
you once again.
Thank you.
Thank you.